Hello and welcome, I'm SimUK, and it is my goal to provide to you the most honest, fact-based critical reviews on YouTube. If you find this review helpful, then please hit that like button, subscribe, and help to support the channel by donating via the links below. Thank you so much, and enjoy the review. Hello guys, and welcome to SimUK. I am still shocked whenever I hear somebody tell me that they haven't yet tried head tracking. To some people, head tracking seems far too expensive or completely unnecessary. I get asked questions like, how can you even turn your head and look at the screen at the same time? Now, I'm not poking fun at these people at all, because they are reasonable concerns around the cost and logical questions too. But honestly, head tracking is such a massive enhancement to my own simulation experiences that I could not only not be without it now, I cannot understand how some big games still release in 2020 without head tracking implemented. Fear not. Head tracking almost certainly is going to be included in Microsoft Flight Simulator 20. It's just yet to be officially confirmed. So if you watch this video today, but decide that you want to hold off buying a head tracking device until after Microsoft Flight Simulator 20 has released, then that makes perfect sense. But even if for some unknown reason it doesn't work in Microsoft Flight Simulator 20, never gonna happen. I promise you that more than 90% of the best simulation games out there do support head tracking. And once you've tried it, you'll never ever be able to go back. And as for the likes of SnowRunner, well, some people just never learn. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly why head tracking is a must-have addition for your sim rig, how it all works, and how you can get it for less than £10. Yes, less than £10 is all that you need to spend in order to get head tracking. So how does head tracking work? In the most simple of terms, a camera or a tracker of some sort follows the movement of your head and passes that movement as data to the simulator that you're playing. The simulator then converts that data into something similar to a mouse movement. Essentially, whatever you're currently using in order to move your head within the game is now going to be controlled by your head. Small movements from your head can be magnified in order to produce much larger movements within the game world. So, for you to look 90 degrees left out of a side window, you might only have to turn your head 9 degrees. What's so great about head tracking though, is that this movement can be tweaked and honed to suit you personally. How I like to set my head tracking up usually starts by me turning my head to one side at my maximum comfortable extension, so that my neck doesn't hurt and I can still see the screen. Then I map slightly less than this movement to equal a 180 degree turn within the game. So effectively, I can now look right behind me. Then it's all about adjusting the curves in between so that your head movements feel smooth, natural, and precise. This part of the process can take some time, but the default setup is usually a very good starting place, and you'll get something good, something that's usable, within 5 to 10 minutes. But for absolute perfection, that might take a little bit longer. Now, there are lots of variations of simulator to consider as well. For example, if I'm driving a truck, then I don't really need to be able to look straight up and straight down all that much. And looking left and right is much more of a smooth and relaxed kind of movement. So to accommodate this, I tend to remove or suppress the vertical axis movement and slow the horizontal speed right down. This then allows me to take a great big sip of coffee whilst I'm driving my truck, and I don't make my viewers vomit all over the place in the process. But for a game like Rise of Flight, I do need to be able to look 180 degrees, full vertical extension, and everything in between. Setting something like this up takes a little while longer, but once you've got it right, oh man, it's good. Every game interprets these inputs slightly differently, so one profile will not give you the perfect performance in all simulators. You can of course copy another profile and tweak it in order to be perfect for each game, and that is certainly the way that I would do it and how I would recommend that you do it. Now fear not, the tweaking process is a relatively simple one once you know how to do it. I have been asked many times to make a tutorial for this, which I have been working on, and hopefully it will be out in time for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Head tracking really enhances any simulator. Just not needing to take your hands off of the controls in order to check a dial, or when you're looking for an enemy, or even just looking around for traffic. It is infinitely immersive. If you're not already convinced, then I think the only option left is to actually get you to try it out. And for less than £10, you can do that. So to be fair to all head tracking creators, I will only recommend the devices that I have actually tested, but I will mention all available companies that I am aware of. This is just to give you a broad understanding of the options that are available out there. I have contacted and communicated with nearly every single head tracking producer, from the most expensive right down to the very cheapest. And whilst all of the budget companies were happy to provide me with a device for review, the bigger companies refused to even acknowledge me. Perhaps they're scared that they will be outclassed in a comparison review. And actually, it is absolutely fine, because the budget options really are very, very good. So let's start with the cheapest, which just so happens to be software-based head tracking. This is the cheapest head tracking option available that I have ever tested. And actually, this was my very first ever head tracking implementation many years ago. It's called TrackNoIR V200. That's what it's known as now. When I first used it, it was called TrackNoIR, or TrackNoIR as I used to call it. And it was completely free. Well, now it requires a donation via PayPal, but it will only cost you £2.60 or thereabouts, because it seems to fluctuate by a few pence here and there throughout the year. TrackNoIR V200 is by far the cheapest option in this list today, and technically it isn't a head tracker at all. It is in fact a face tracker, or perhaps a face and eye tracker. It does require that you already own a webcam, but in 2020 I'm going to assume that most people already do. If you don't, any half-decent webcam will do, so long as you have a well-lit room. Now thankfully, cheap does not translate as poor quality. This always has been and continues to be a very reliable way to experience head tracking, especially for next to no cost at all. The only real downside to this is that it isn't really being supported or developed as much anymore. So for that, we can spend just a little bit more money and take a look at Viewtracker, which is available on Steam. Now Viewtracker actually do provide a free demo, so if you really do want to try this out before you buy it, then this is the only option that will let you try for free, and I highly recommend that you consider doing that. Viewtracker, just like TrackNoIR V200, requires a webcam, and it follows your eyes and the contours of your nose. Again, this is a very good head tracking option, and it's available at a brilliant price. At the moment, it's just £11.39, and it often goes on sale. So as Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 approaches, you might see some really good deals on this product. Now, when I first tested this, I did encounter an issue. With both of the implementations above, there is a chance that the software they're running on does conflict with other head tracking software. Basically, this means that you can't run two different head tracking implementations at the same time. Now, most normal people would never even consider doing this anyway, but because I'm a reviewer, I do have multiple different devices set up on my system at once, and as such, I did encounter some conflicts. In order to resolve those conflicts, all I had to do was fully remove one software system and install the other one, and that completely fixed all of the conflicts that I had. So there really shouldn't be any issues in this, but I have previously mentioned that as a problem for Viewtracker, but that is the reason why that issue occurred. So as long as you're not running two systems at the same time, it should run perfectly. From this point on, we're going to discuss hardware. The first hardware item in the list is from EDTRACKER, and it's the only head tracking device which does not require a camera. This clever little device connects wirelessly to your PC via a provided USB dongle, and unlike every other device in this list, does not necessarily require direct line of sight, which can be very beneficial for numerous reasons. Unfortunately, whilst looking for current pricing on the EDTRACKER website, I discovered that their shop page is currently missing. So I'm a little unsure if EDTRACKER is even available to buy anymore. What's more disturbing is that it might have been forced upon them by the likes of TrackIR, but that is nothing more than hearsay at this point. I have contacted EDTRACKER's owners, and I hope that we will have them back sooner rather than later, but so far I haven't had any correspondence from them. Many people swear by the EDTRACKER devices as being the most responsive on the market, and I have to say that it really is an incredibly responsive device. The next four options are all pretty similar. They all require a modified PS3 iCam and an attachable device, which you will need to stick with Velcro to the side of your headset. They're all wireless, and all but one of them offers the cheaper wired variant too. But for me, wireless is the only way to go. Now, I mentioned a PS3 iCam. This is a modified iCam that works with these sensors. TrackIR effectively have something very similar, and these devices also work with that, but I'll discuss that a little bit more later. First up is Trackhat, and Trackhat have probably been around longer than most. They have recently improved their device to be smaller and more responsive. I have spoken to the CEO and he has agreed to send me a device for review purposes. I was hoping to be able to include it within this video. Unfortunately, it hasn't arrived yet, so a full review for that device will be due in the next couple of weeks. What I can comment on is the previous model, which I have had for maybe 2 or 3 years already. I have got a review up on that device already, and it's still working today. I still use it today. The charge is still holding strong, and although I've got to say the LEDs are not as bright as other devices, it does still manage to deliver consistent and reliable head tracking. It's perhaps not quite as responsive as the newer devices though. In addition to this, Trackhat's creator has confirmed his intention to make sure that the new device, which is faster and smaller, works in Microsoft Flight Simulator 20, and I for one 100% believe that he will achieve this goal. DelanClip are another similar company to Trackhat, and like Trackhat, they have had more than one variation of their devices available. I have tried both the new wireless Fusion range and also the original wired version. Both offer very quick, very accurate head tracking, but for me, wireless is a massive bonus, so that is the one that I will recommend. If style is a consideration for you, then I can easily say that the DelanClip is the most stylish of all the hardware variants that I have tested to date. Now, the UTC Pro 2 is one of my all-time favourite head trackers. The thin, spindly stalks and the far-back chunky base actually give this device the best overall weight to centre of balance feel. Whereas some of the other devices feel like they have some front weight to them, the UTC Pro, once it's attached to your headset, feels completely weightless. Now, the developer who makes these may or may not still be in development, which is a massive shame if they're not, because for me, deep down, this is my favourite device that I've ever tested. And when I dropped it and broke the stalk, I was absolutely gutted. Thankfully, a jot of super glue later, and the stalk was back on without issue. And it's been a good 2.5 years. I still use it regularly, and it's still as excellent as it was the day that I got it. Now, I have been waiting patiently for the new and improved version for the UTC 2 Pro, but the fact is, this might never materialise, which would be a huge shame because this device is superb. Now we get into the big corporations. These devices are far more expensive and I couldn't tell you if they were better, just as good, or even not as good as the devices I have already mentioned, because they all shun me completely. They don't even have the decency to send me an email back saying, "Thank you, but no thank you." I'm pretty sure that almost all the other devices mentioned here in this list will be compatible with Microsoft Flight Simulator 20, but EyeTracker is totally unique. Unlike all the other systems in this list, EyeTracker tracks your eye movement. Who'd have thought? The camera systems that are used in order to achieve this are not compatible with any of the other devices, and it's noticeably more expensive as well. I do have friends who have this device, and in all honesty, they tend not to use it, and instead they favour one or more of the other devices that are mentioned in this list. Make what you will of that information. TrackIR is where it all began, but their prices are so high that the vast majority of people simply cannot afford to invest in something like this. As a device, I expect nothing other than high precision and quick, accurate responses from a device like TrackIR. But what I find interesting, very interesting, is that the majority of people who have bought a TrackIR device and have accidentally broken the headpiece, they tend to buy one of the cheaper alternatives which have already been mentioned, and they've always been perfectly happy with the results. So what does that suggest to you? Now, in a characteristically Microsoft kind of way, some big announcements have been made in the last 24 hours. Not only has Microsoft Flight Simulator now appeared on the Steam store and you can pre-order that now, all 3 versions of it, but also they have confirmed the presence of VR at release. But there is a caveat to that. It will only initially be available for HP's Reverb G2 VR headset. Now, arguably this is going to be the most advanced and most impressive VR headset that's ever released, but it's also going to come with a rather substantial price tag. You're looking at least £600 for the device. Now, that hasn't been officially announced yet. It's coming out at the end of the year. They're probably going to try and coincide with the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. So as far as head tracking goes, then VR really is the most immersive of all the possible options. But until somebody gets their hands on a G2 device and tests it out, there's no guarantee that it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. They are offering resolution of 2160 squared per eye resolution, which is a massive improvement. Also running at 90 Hz. But don't forget, the likes of Facebook are also going to be bringing out a new version of the Oculus Quest. The Oculus Quest, up until recently, has been considered the most impressive head tracking device released. So there is another final option for you there as things progress in the future. Now, if you happen to be watching this review and you work for TrackIR or EyeTracker and would like me to produce an honest, fair review, then do feel free to contact me, as I am always fair and honest. But to you guys out there, hopefully this has at least piqued your interest in head tracking if you haven't tried it before, and hopefully I've explained how they work and confirmed that it does not have to cost you an absolute fortune for you to enjoy the wonderful experience that head tracking can add to your simulation experience. My name's Mike, this is SimUK. If this video helps you, please consider chucking us £1, just £1 a year, that's all I ask. It helps us create more reviews like this. And if you haven't already subscribed, do subscribe, and if you haven't clicked that button, the big old thumbs up button, then please do that too. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves. I cannot wait for Microsoft Flight Simulator to arrive, and I bet you can't either. Till next time, take care. Goodbye for now.